Oscar winners.
Yep, acting together at a time. Damon, Bale, and
he wrote, and I can't remember if he directed it or what, and acted in a short. Can't remember the name of it right now. It's got a pretty common name back in the early 2000s, but Walton Goggins produced and starred in it with him.
So Walty Goggins is an Academy Award winning thing.
That Phil character, I agree with you. I quite like that Phil character. He was like an oddly powerful supporting role.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know,
he wasn't a part of the ensemble. He was just an oddly powerful supporting role to me.
He's like a Tombstone character.
He was like a good manager.
Sure.
Yeah. What?
Pumps them up, keeps things organized. You said you liked his crew. I liked what they did towards the beginning of the movie, or at least the first third, how they let you know who these guys were. They look over at one of the races. They go, well, why are they pitting so fast? Well, because they got a NASCAR pit team.
Oh, yeah.
But then these are the crew that stick together throughout the movie, and they win Le Mans. So they told you who these guys are. They're not a NASCAR crew, but they're great engineers, and they do it.
I love they ripped off all the computers, and they just put yarn and tape on the thing to get airflow. And that actually helped them fix the car from 64 to make it better.
That was cool. I liked that scene. A lot. That was one of the few, even though it's less about the racing than the prep side, right? But like that was one of the few scenes where I felt like I learned something about the racing, the back scene, the behind the scenes of the racing, if you will, right? They're like, these things aren't going to tell us what we want to know, but this will. And this is this weird, like, makeshift jury-rigged thing. But yeah, that was cool. I agree with, in the beginning, it was great when he was getting them out and they were walking the area before he had his first scene with Christian Bale. I love in the end when he's trying to get Carroll Shelby to close a sale, and it's something they've done so many times, and Shelby just kind of breaks down. But this goes back to like what we've heard in almost every one of these racing movies, the very pragmatic understanding of how incredibly dangerous this is. And his answer, and we know he cared a great deal about Ken Miles. We know that Phil did, but he even said, it's like, Carroll, it's been 6 months. Sometimes they don't get out of the car.
Yeah, that was a good line.
Hear, was it in the Jay Leno thing where he asked why Shelby hated Ferrari so much?
Yeah.
And it was because he killed so many drivers, Ferrari did.
The Executioner was his nickname?
They called him the Assassin.
The Assassin, because so many people died in Ferrari cars.
Wow.
You're going 240.
On teams, I guess.
I mean, Miles died because he flipped going 200 miles an hour and there's no roll bar. Like, they didn't have roll bars. Like, and they make them as light as possible. So you have the fastest engine possible on the lightest possible car. And, yeah, it's just such a dangerous thing.
He flipped the car at a crazy speed.
It's kind of funny, John, the way we've watched this, the kind of evolution of it. So so if you think about it, we started with Rush when, Lauda was fighting for more stringent regulations because a lot of people were dying in F1. Mm-hmm. And then we go to Days of Thunder, which... but I'm talking like the time frame, I guess.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And then you have Days of Thunder where everyone's rubbing, like everyone's whacking into each other.
Right. A lot of roughhousing.
And
the commissioner didn't like it.
Yeah, he hated it. And then Driven, which, I mean, they have that one giant fireball, but no one, like, dies in it. Like, yeah, so I mean, you kind of get safer, but then you go, wait, where are we at now? Ford versus Ferrari. I lost track of my time.
But Ford versus Ferrari is older.
Yeah, so like, people are dying every week in there. Then F1, they fought for more guidelines. And then in Days of Thunder, they were rubbing, like doing a lot of bumping and stuff, and the commissioner hated it. And then 2001, like in Driven, no one really died. So it's kind of interesting the safety precautions through these 4 racing movies that we've covered so far.
I think one documentary watched, they said it was a good year when only 5 people died.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah.
And every one of these movies involved a horrible crash, of course, right? Because Niki Lauda burning up in his car, Driven, Memo almost drowns in a car flip. Days of Thunder, there's that double crash, and both Rooker and Cruise's characters don't know when they're going to be able to race again. Only one of them can race again. And in this, it's more extreme. The end, we lose Ken Miles. In the beginning, when we first meet Shelby in kind of the flashback almost, he gets out of a car when you thought that he was going to be in trouble. And he even says, like, am I on fire? Fuel in the damn car. Fuel the damn car.
Yeah,
and everyone's worried about him. But again, it's like, so all these movies in their own like kind of flavor and level of intensity and or urgency and or theatrical flair, and it's very different in all these movies, right? Introduce you to the lethality of the sport and the knowledge of catching on fire. That catching on fire specifically is a notion that is mentioned or specifically happens in every single one of these movies.
Yep.
I mean, let's be
Being
honest.
on fire, that's terrifying. Think about that. It's interesting when I try and wrap my head around that is the reality. Not just that you're going to crash and die, but that you may be on fire.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, holy crap.
the idea of being in these crazy fast cars and the fire and just how fast they're going and anything that can happen. I don't trust the suburban drivers in our neighborhood to drive safely around me going 20 miles an hour, much less be in one of these races.
What about being in the station wagon with Molly Miles when she's flooring it in her car?
Oh, that sexy wood paneling.
Yeah.
That was a really cute scene. That scene, even though it's much less exciting, made me think of Niki Lauda driving the Italians' cars.
Yeah.
And they were just so like stoked. And then when he finally put the pedal to the metal because his future wife asked him to, they're like, oh, like they're like two college kids excited.
Greatest day ever. And you know what I liked about that part is he was lying to her. And I think her anger from that scene just came from the fact that he was lying to her. Like, she just, don't lie to me. Like, I don't know, that makes
It
sense.
was a strong moment.
Every single one of these scenes involves dangerous driving off. Every one of these movies we've discussed in our 4 Laps of the Race pod have included a very dangerous driving scene off the racetrack.
How would you rank these 4 dangerous driving scenes, John?
Okay, are we talking about how much I like them or how dangerous they were? If they were really done the way they were presented?
Enjoyment.
Okay. Because if it was the most dangerous the way it was presented, I'd say Driven, but that was nonsense. They just waved their hands like Fast and the Furious.
Oh, that's bad.
Sequels. Okay, so the most fun. I'm going to go with Rush.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but Days of Thunder. No, I'm still going to go Rush, then Days of Thunder. And, I'm kind of tied with Ford v Ferrari and Driven because they're entertaining for such radically different reasons.
Yeah.
They really are. Because even though Driven is so over the top and it's not that it's incredible. It's that I don't believe any of it.
Yeah.
But some funny, they have some really good gags during that scene. And then Ford v Ferrari, again, Ken and his wife, it's funny. And he's the risk taker and he's nervous about his wife's driving as she's speeding around. And you see, like, when she makes the turns, they're so abrupt, like it's turning on its struts on one side and then the other. Like all right. Yeah, that's mine.
And he's just eating a bag of crisps.
Yeah, he's munching.
I really like this one because it's much more casually reckless. She's just doing it. It's something that you could do in your own free time to freak out your spouse.
You say that.
Days of Thunder is just upsetting in how absurd it is.
Yeah, they rent the cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
But wait.
It's very funny, though.
Yeah.
Ken's wife, I can't think of the character's name, unfortunately.
Molly.
Molly.
Miles.
Okay, most of her maneuvers, yes, you could see for a very great distance there was no one in the other lane. But the third time she goes around a car, she's going over a little brief hill where you can't tell what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even when I saw it the second time yesterday, so I'd seen it in the morning and then again later, and I still got nervous again. I'm like, oh shit.
That's a very risky decision.
Yeah.
As if I don't know what's going to happen. But
I hate having any of these lose, but Rush is number 1. I'm just going to say that. Rush, that happiness in Rush, right?
oh yeah, that's a wonderful scene.
I think the Italian guys sell it. There's love and life in the background.
Even if it was just his interactions with his future wife before he sped up. Mm-hmm. That alone made it great too. Like, it was wonderful.
All right, John, how would you rank these 4 movies?
Okay. Okay. Rush, Ford v Ferrari, Days of Thunder, Driven.
Okay. I thought you were going to keep saying okay for like 3 minutes.
Here's the thing.
No, I love it.
There were no calculations. I had written the 4 laps of our race pod in order, and so I'm staring at the titles and I'm waiting for my emotion to strike me.
All right, so I'm going with FVF, Rush, Driven, Days of Thunder.
That's interesting. You swapped your first 2 and you swapped your last 2 from mine.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, but I've enjoyed them all. I don't know.
I'd say absolutely. It's wonderful how none of these movies are trying to go through any of the same motions of any of the other ones.
I will say, though, when you watch Driven and Days of Thunder, they're about 2 hours long and they feel 2 hours long. Rush is a little under 2 hours and it feels like a 30-minute movie. You watch Ford vs. Ferrari, it's close to 2.5 hours?
2.5 hours.
It feels like 90 minutes.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
It does not, so.
It flew by.
Yeah, I mean.
Literally.
Oh, live my life a quarter mile. Rush and Ford vs. Ferrari fly by. You don't feel like they're their running times, but Driven and Days of Thunder, they make you work a little bit to watch. At least that's how I feel.
So I'm going to say that Rush was so good that this past weekend I stumbled across the Laureus World Sports Awards, and I was flipping through channels. I don't even know this thing exists, right? It was on NBC on Sunday. And I'm flipping through the channels, and there's the Laureus Awards, the World Sports Awards, but I only stopped on the screen because I saw Daniel Bruhl, and he is announcing the candidates for this award. So I thought this was a Formula One award show. No, it's a World Sports Award show. I happened to stop on it when Daniel Bruhl was giving an award to the best Formula One athlete of the year. That's such a weird coincidence. And it was right before I put in Ford v Ferrari.
They must love him in that role then if he can go and present for F1 years later.
But see, now I'm left to wonder, though, right? Because this is 2020, and he was in that movie in 2013. Has he been giving that award every year?
Yeah. It's called
the Daniel Bruhl. Multiple years? It's not like you wait 7 years to do that.
The Daniel Bruhl Award of Excellence? Imagine if you won that, John. Would you retire?
If Daniel Bruhl gave me an award of excellence?
Yes.
I think so I get to shake Daniel Bruhl's hand.
Yep.
And then it's socially acceptable for me to be like, dude, drinks later?
Yeah.
I think that's quite a high point. I don't know if I can compete with that.
I feel like Daniel Bruhl would drink with you. Daniel Bruhl, go have a drink.
I mean, if I just won the award that he was giving out.
Yeah.
I think I got a good shot.
Yeah. If he blows you off, that'd be like the worst day in your life.
So totally weird tangent, but I have had drinks with Larry Hanks.
Larry Hanks.
Tom Hanks' brother is a professor of entomology, and
oh, nice.
I've seen him many times at my annual meetings, and He does not like being associated with as being Tom Hanks' brother.
Aww.
Well, he's like a doctorate, I would assume, correct, in his field.
Oh, you have to be.
Yeah, so he's one of the premier. He's a incredibly well-educated, successful. I'm assuming.
Yeah, but no one likes being the sibling to the professional good human being.
Yeah, you could save the world, but you weren't in Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I first met him in 2004
really nice.
At a small conference that was just about how to deal with the emerald ash borer, and it was really just like a summit of 6 PhD researchers. I just came with one of them because I worked for them, and they're just talking about, dude, we're all going to give a talk, but really, let's have a round table. How the hell are we going to deal with this? And it's such a big problem that even today, we have very little recourse. One day baseball will not have ash bats potentially, and it will change baseball because home run distances will be different, and now the dynamics of park sizes will have a different, all gambling, people don't realize that something like an introduced bug pest is going to change the scape of how people view baseball, probably in the next 5 or 10 years.
Wow. Sounds like
Larry Hanks, though, he was one of those people saying, look, guys, if people don't care, tell them what it's going to do to baseball. And I'm like, what's it going to do to baseball? And he's like, let me tell you what it's going to do to baseball.
Wow. That's cool. You got me thinking, John. Would that mess up any car manufacturing?
I don't think that ash wood is used in a lot of car manufacturing.
Ashwood panels on station wagons?
Oh, that would be a biggie because, what if it was heavier? That might totally change her dynamic turns. Yep. Maybe they would have died if it was oak.
Are your shocks?
What if there's too much drag?
Do your shocks not deal with those? Yeah. Too much drag? Oh, yeah, they could rip right off.
What if there's too much lift?
Yep. What if there's a beetle in it and it gets into your car and freaks you out when you're driving?
That's plausible.
All right, so John.
One of the scary beetles from the Mummy.
What'd you think about the big speech? Ooh, those are gross. What'd you think about the big speech that Ford gives to his employees about walking home and pitching ideas?
I didn't like that. I think we needed more context. Let me rephrase. It felt powerful, but I think we needed a scene right before that or something, because I didn't feel like that's something you would say to your linemen in the factory.
Got it. Because they were because they were dealing with Impalas then, like Chevy. They had a battle with Chevy, and they were not the cool cars. That's kind of